Hey guys, it's your boy, Ballface8020, back again with another great commentary. First, if you just want to hear about fasting, work, my reading list, book we'll call it Ballface8020 Book Club, 4th of July, then just skip to the end. This is because we'll talk about that. Instead of talking at the beginning, I'm going to talk about it at the end instead. Secondly, I'm going to apologize in advance for this video. I tried to make it last night and I had to stop because I got interrupted, but it was complete shit. And I'm not sure, I don't think it's going to be too much better this time because it's like one of those things where I want to talk about it, but I don't know where I'm going with it. So this is a follow-up to a video I made some time back called Have Men Really Stopped Approaching Women? And, it's because it's a social media meme. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it. If you're not, then get familiar with it and then come back and watch this. So why address it now again? Because I've been getting in my YouTube recommendeds, I've been getting a lot of manosphere stuff that focuses on just that. Women are furious that men aren't approaching anymore, stuff like, or women realize that men are done, that kind of shit. There's nothing new about that content, and certainly I've seen it plenty of times, but for some reason it's really getting recommended to me a lot. I don't know if maybe I had clicked on one recently and now I'm getting a lot of them. The ones I'm seeing the most of are this guy called Cosmic Verse, and another is called Logical Dating 101. Again, I'm assuming most of you are familiar with both of those already. I don't know. So Cosmic Verse is, I think he has like an AI like English accent voice. And, just standard like MRA complaints. And Logic Dating 101 is a little different. He's actually, unlike most Manospherians, he's actually likable. He's an affable guy. He's a black guy who's probably somewhere around 30. And ironically, this was complete news to me, he has a wife. So he's not even like LARPing as a MGTOW. I don't understand. If you have a wife, why are you making this kind of content? That I don't get. Gets me thinking about, like, what's the main difference between, especially Logic 101 and somebody like Cosmic Verse, and compared to somebody like Undead Chronic, like, because Cosmic Verse not so much, but both of them, their stuff's at least watchable, right? And somebody like Undead Chronic, I don't know if he's still around. To me, I think to a lot of other people, is unwatchable. So why is that? They're both criticizing modern women. And I think it's because that even though there's a lot of bitterness in, Cosmic Verse and Logic Dating 101, or Logical Dating 101, there's bitterness, yeah, but there's no hate. And I think that's what makes Undead Chronic so hard to listen to, is the hate. And I'm not saying it from any type of white knight perspective. I'm not a woman. I really don't care if somebody hates women or not. But it doesn't really matter. It's just something that I think that hate, and we can even go further. Let's just do a thought experiment. We say, for the sake of argument, Undead Chronic is completely right about everything he says. Women are every bit as bad as Undead Chronic says. And he's completely justified in hating them the way he does. That wouldn't make it any less unpleasant to listen to. I think there's just something inherently unpleasant about hate, even if it's justified hate. I'm not saying it is or isn't. And, I say this as somebody who, you guys, if you've watched any of my content, I've certainly can be very hateful towards, people or groups that I don't like. And, I've gotten better about it. I think the most obvious example is like white liberals, who I used to just really have like a murderous, truly murderous hatred for. And I'm still not crazy about them. Yeah. But the thing is, like, I believe all the same stuff I did. When I used to really hate them, like, I still think they're wrong. I still think they're dangerous. I still think they're obnoxious. But I got away from hating them. Some of it maybe I just outgrew due to like struggles in my own life, and it just kind of forced me to grow and get past it. But when you have a chance to introspect it, I realized that and I'm sorry if I've talked about this before, but white liberals are going to be fine or not. White liberals are not affected by me hating them. I can hate white liberals as much as I want. It's not going to impact them. They're the only person who's impacted by it is me and anybody who has to listen to me spurg about it. Yeah. And it just like, is it making me any happier to like to dwell on it? And no, it's not. So that's why I've gotten away from it. Even if I'm not perfect. And that's what I would say to people like Undead Chronic and people like him. Like, it would be one thing if I'm not going to argue with you whether your hatred for women is justified or not. I don't even think it's relevant. I think that, talking to these guys about that, saying you're wrong to hate women or something, I think that's like, it's not even relevant. And I don't think you're ever going to get anywhere with it. It's just a matter of, is it helping you and is it making you happy? Because you don't sound happy. And when you're caught up in it, again, I can speak for this firsthand, you don't really think of it that way. You don't see of it that way. You kind of think of it like, if you've ever really been caught in that. Because no, I've never been Undead Chronic level hatred towards women. But I have had his level of hatred towards other groups. White liberals is an example, but I could name some others. And if you had asked me, like, is it making you happy? I would have said, well, it's not relevant. I can't help it. It's just like I'm right to feel this way. And, I shouldn't be trying to get rid of the hatred. I need to be trying to get revenge on X, Y, Z. That's probably how Undead Chronic feels. And, anybody who's like him feels. And, so, I mean, the only way that they're ever going to cure themselves, first of all, nobody's going to fix them. Nobody's going to get them to stop hating women. But the only way they're going to get over it, I think, is for them to realize that the hatred is only hurting them. I read this thing by Booker T. Washington, who was, you may not know who that is, but he was a black civil rights leader like way back in the day, in the early 20th century. Today, he'd probably be considered an Uncle Tom, which he wasn't. He was not at all. He was like a black nationalist. He just like very devout Christian, and he just strategically advocated a more non-confrontational approach. So also he was a super genius. Nobody can dispute that. But you don't have to like him. That's not really the point. But he'd said something, or written something once, saying, it doesn't matter what any man does to me. There's nothing he can do to make me hate him. And I was much younger when I read that, and I didn't like it at all. I thought it was like, so you're giving up. You're letting them win. You're just saying, like, no matter what they do, you won't hate them back. You're letting them win. But, what I've come to realize is that whatever somebody does to you, no matter how terrible, like, God forbid they kill your whole family. Sorry if I've said all this before, but it's very topical now. Let's say they kill your whole family. You'd be certainly justified in hating them, right? Well, it's not about justification. First of all, if they do that, you should certainly pursue justice. See them, brought to justice and, hopefully executed for their crime. but you're already, like, them killing your family, you've lost your family now because of them. That's gonna cause a lot of suffering. You've really lost a lot. But I guess what Booker T. Washington was trying to say, and what I've come to agree with, is that when you go and then proceed to react to that loss that person inflict on you by hating that person who caused you that pain, in this case, murder of your family, all you are doing in practice is increasing your suffering, because now you've got the pain of the loss and the pain of carrying the hatred, and that's why what's so about anger and hate, they don't really feel like pain. They only are if you really examine it and see how it's impacting you. So that's what I mean. So that's why. But anyway, whatever you think about it, I don't think that there's any question that, even if you think it's good to hate people and stuff, it's very unpleasant to listen to. If you're not in it, if you don't hate women yourself, listening to Undead Chronic is very like, get that away from me. Even if, again, you don't have to like women. You could even dislike women and be anti-feminist and hear Undead Chronic and kind of be like, like I said, get that away from me. Anyway, what were we talking about again? Oh, right. So the whole point of that was none of that has anything to do with this video. That was just, that was a total aside. But just why, I can listen to Logical Dating 101 and Cosmic Verse. So anyway, these guys, with their videos are very clickbaity, right? Because almost all of their video titles are like women furious that men don't pursue, or some variation of that, okay? Then you click on the video, and sometimes you see that, but usually there's a lot more to it than that. So what they'll do is they'll just put up TikTok clips of usually women complaining about something about modern dating. Sometimes it'll be something from men saying something. And usually women, though. So generally people who are watching these videos are watching it for schadenfreude, or however you say it, to like watch, certainly that's what the clickbait is for, is that they think they're going to get it and see women who've hit the wall or are worried about why men aren't approaching them, shit like that. And then actually when you watch it, you see something a lot more nuanced in these videos. But before we get into the meat and potatoes, or meat and beans as Casey would say, one thing you'll see a lot in these videos are three very famous, or TikTok famous, if you're in this space, pick-me's, who just go on and talk about like how men have it so bad and women suck and shit like that. And the three are, you may be familiar with them. First is Lady J. The second is some girl with like long, straight, blonde, mousy hair. I don't know her name though. And the third is Jedediah Billa, who's she used to be on The View, like right-wing personality, but she's got a podcast now, and I don't know what her podcast is about, but all the clips I see of it are her bashing modern women, and simping for men. So the first one I want to talk about is Lady J. I've never liked her. Got that very like post-testosterone Kathleen Turner voice, and she even kind of has her physiognomy too. She's always rubbed me the wrong way. Basically, she'll say something with, like, she does stitching, right? So you have like a woman or young woman, or not even necessarily a young woman, a woman say something, and then she'll come in her, deadpan delivery, respond to it. But I've never liked her. Usually when I see her stuff, like on the things, I usually just skip over it because I'm just, no. The girl with the mousy blonde hair, yeah, she's like, I would say unoffensive, but just kind of like boring. I mean, my problem mainly with her is like Lady J at least has like a shtick, and what she's doing, so you can like, but like this mousy blonde haired girl, her whole thing is just to be like a young, she doesn't do anything for me. She's not really my type, but a young, I guess, somewhat attractive girl who just talks about how modern women are bad. But that's it. She doesn't really contribute anything. She just shows it and just is like, yeah, this woman says this and that's wrong. And like, that's just, yeah. The other is Judea Billah. Now, Judea Billah, which the MRA stuff she's spouting is complete nonsense. However, she's got a background in TV. She really does have a sort of charisma, like, for this stuff. So she can at least do it. I'll at least listen to what she has to say, even though it's always nonsense, at least when it's talking about men and women and dating and stuff. Then one other thing I want to address really quick. A phrase that I keep hearing on these videos is crashing out. And it seems, I can't even give you a context because it seems to be used in different contexts. Does anybody know what that means? Like, what is like, does that mean like spurging out? Like, I don't know. So anyway, and this is like the problem is I don't really know where to start or where I want to go with this. But what we get back to, right, is the idea that men aren't approaching anymore, men don't want relationships anymore, stuff like that. We've talked about it before. It's been talked about to death. And I want to offer a little more, I don't know, insight on it, that or theories on it or whatever. So, well, why don't we start with what the stuff that Cosmic, with Logical 101 dating, it's a little different. So why don't we focus on what Cosmic Verse says, okay? And he's got a few different things he talks about like why women are having a hard time finding guys, okay? He really doesn't mention so much about the family courts, but he does, you know, like what he says is, like one thing that he'll emphasize is that modern women just aren't feminine enough. Like they're so busy trying to be a boss babe that they can't be a supportive partner because the thing is just a power struggle. And then he's actually cited some things of a guy, like at least one video of a young black guy with a British accent, though, talking to some girl, I think was black too. And she was talking about men being intimidated by successful women or stuff. And he was saying it's not intimidation. It's that for a woman to go out and be successful, you know, in the world requires her stepping into a real masculine energy, a masculine frame. And that, you know, there are some guys who like that, but that most guys are looking for a more feminine energy. But it's not that guys are intimidated by the masculine and or by the woman's success. I think it's an interesting point. But also it brings up, you know, I know we're kind of down in like, you know, we're going into a rabbit hole here, but you know, what the thing is, if you talk to me, it's not about male loneliness epidemic or female loneliness epidemic or, you know, women can't find it. It's more, it's very, what I consider it is just a singles crisis. Okay? There are men who can't find relationships and women who can't find relationships. This is nothing new. Okay? It's probably worse than it has been in the past. I don't know the statistics, but I would expect it's worse than it has been in the past. And that's really what it's about. I think that it's more about that than men or women. So the So anyway, but what he was saying though, let me just address that point about the thing is like men aren't intimidated by success. Well, see, this is what I'm saying, right? So of the women who are in their 30s and 40s, right? Basically, the one problem that they're talking about is that these women just have a smaller pool because they're not willing to date a guy who's less successful than them, or those guys aren't willing to date her. Yeah, you know, for me, dating a woman who was like a lot more successful than me, which is not saying you don't have to be like you're a cashier at 7-Eleven. You're more successful than me. But like a lot more successful than me, that would be a deal breaker for me. But I don't think I'm like the real good comparison. I'm sure there's other guys out there who feel that way. But like, again, me, I'm somebody who doesn't want a relationship anyway. So I don't think I'm a good example. I think it is a problem. I think that especially if you're a woman who's like in her 30s or 40s and has like a good career, that, yeah, I mean, it could be more difficult in a few ways, right? Because it can be more difficult if you yourself are not willing to date down. And then it can be more difficult if like people who are down aren't willing to date you. But on the other hand, I don't want to exaggerate it because I think anybody, like generally people date within their demographic. You know, they date with like, within, like about their age, similar usually, race and ethnicity. That's less important now, but historically it's been the case. And it still is usually the case. And, income level and success. And, I do remember when my mom was still around and she was dating, I had mentioned one guy to her who I was working with. And she was like, no, the guy delivers newspapers for a living? No, absolutely, absolutely not. So there is something to it, but I don't think there's really anything wrong with that. You want people who are from like a similar, just like you will want somebody with similar interests, you want somebody with a similar background. And, my mom made more money than my dad. So it wasn't like, a big deal or anything. I think that, yeah, look, it limits the pool, but it's a two-way street. Like the thing is, a woman who's cleaning houses in her 30s and 40s, the CEO is not an option for her. That guy's not going to be interested in her, so I think that is missing the boat. Then that's the thing is like for a woman to go out and be successful, she has to really be in her masculine energy and that she can't have I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. You can be a really unsuccessful woman with a real dominant masculine energy. I've met many. And the reverse, you can be a really successful woman with a real feminine energy. I do think it makes it more difficult. I just don't think it's like a total I think that there's a lot of guys who are open to it, and I do think you can be successful and still have, as a woman, and still have a feminine energy. I don't think that's it. So anyway, though, but if we get to like, so there's a singles crisis, right? And what they keep mentioning is women who are looking don't really know where to look because, a lot of them, they're dissatisfied with online dating. 30s and 40s, you're too old for the clubs. So what can they do other than go to these singles events? And men aren't showing up to them anymore. Now, that's a real phenomenon. But I don't view men not showing up to singles events as men giving up on dating. I think men, for whatever reason, don't want to go into singles events. And I wouldn't necessarily read anything more into it than that. So why aren't men going to singles events? So, with the MGTOWs are going to say, because they've realized women aren't worth it. It's possible, but I don't think so. I really don't know. I think it's, yeah, I'm honestly, I have no idea. I wish I had thought about it more before I came on here. But anyway, but you know what? It doesn't really matter, right? Because once gets to my big point, the truth is, most people, first of all, let's just reestablish, if we haven't already, is when I see these people who are doing these complaints and stuff, these are all coming from post-wall women. So women in their 30s or 40s. There are no TikToks of girls in their earlier mid-20s saying, where are all the good men, or where do you find a relationship, where do you find a guy? So those women are still doing okay. I mean, they're having problems in their relationships. They're not having a problem getting a relationship. And women in their 30s and 40s, though, it seems like they are. So why is that? So what they'll say is, they'll say a couple of things, right? So like you got these guys like Cosmic Verse who will say that, well, they were pursuing their career or, getting pumped and dumped by Chad in their 20s. And now it's harder. So that they've kind of missed the boat. No, I don't think that's true. I think that very few women are getting pumped and dumped by Chad regularly. I mean, maybe a little bit in college between relationships, but generally women are in their 20s, want to be in a relationship, and they usually are. Now, I can't tell you if they've been faithful or not. I don't know what the relationships are like, but they're usually in a relationship that they, especially by the end of college, that they are taking seriously, that they want to see going somewhere. Like they stop doing play relationships in high school usually. So I don't think there's any cases of maybe they weren't urgent, but they were generally in serious relationships in their 20s. And or at least seriously looking for a relationship. Or these days they may have been in a situationship, but that they wanted it to go further. So you can't really okay, maybe they should have cut bait earlier, but you can understand, when they were young and retarded, why they didn't. But when you get to the 30s and 40s, that's where they're struggling. But so here's the thing, right? Most people who want a relationship are going to have found one, are going to have found their person, at least for the time being, by the time they get into their 30s, certainly their 40s. And so that's what they're most, and they have done it. So, anybody who hasn't is left over for a reason. That reason may have just been bad luck, but you're still left over. So, what I've talked about before, if you're a woman in your 30s and 40s, if you say where are all the good men? Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a lot of people, you're just asking to be given some MGTOW bullshit. But where all the good men are is they're married. they're all married or they're in LTRs. So if you're in your 30s or 40s and you want a good man, it's difficult because, like I said, those good men are all married already or in LTRs. So what you got is what's left. And what's left is not going to be very appealing. So what's left is guys who couldn't or wouldn't stay faithful, guys who are bums, guys like me who are, not too much, not really, you don't want to be with us anyway, but even if you did, we're emotionally unavailable. And why I say that, it does make me realize something that, I hadn't really thought of, which is that I do get some, because I was thinking, right, I used to get a lot more interest from women when I was younger. That's not really true. I got more interest from young women when I was younger. But I do still get some interest from women my own age. It's just that I don't really think about it because I don't have anything against women my own age, but I'm not looking for a relationship. So the only thing I think about is attraction, and I'm not attracted to, women who aren't young. Now, I'm not saying it in a hater way. I'm not saying that I think that older women aren't attractive in like an objective sense, but they don't do anything for me. Even with young women, my standards are really high, and then it's so easy for me to say this stuff, and like I can say you guys, and I think you guys will understand, but it comes off or it can be interpreted the wrong way. Like I remember once when I was we were talking about like what age of people was most attractive, and I was bringing up a study that said that women rated men who were about their age as the most attractive, but men, no matter the age, rated women in their early 20s as most attractive. And to me, it's just like, well, that's just objectively true. So the question isn't why do men rate women that way? It's why don't women rate men in their early or maybe mid 20s as the most attractive? So it's easy. So I was bringing that up, and my sister-in-law was like, well, I don't think that men who aren't young don't think that women in their early 20s are the most attractive. And I was like, no, they definitely do. I mean, that's, that's the age group that I found the most attractive. And then she immediately says, you want a woman in her early 20s? No, I mean, like, how long have you known me, man? Like, I don't want anybody. It's got nothing to do with what I want, what I think I could get, what I think I deserve. I don't deserve anything. I don't want anything. And if I could get a woman in her early 20s, I still wouldn't be interested. That's not the point. The point is, and by the way, if I was looking for a relationship, I would look for one with a woman my own age, because I think that's like that's how a relationship is going to be most healthy. But we're not talking about that. We're just talking about what is most attractive. And wait, how did we get on this? What were we talking about? So right. So anyway, the thing is, but anyway, okay, well, we're going back to like what's available. Because I remember I talked a video about it. It said like, if you're a woman in her, looking to date seriously, and like, and I was actually talking about a younger group, like, mid 20s to late 20s, even early 30s, like, and you're somebody who, like, let's say you do value looks, like, it's not the be all and end all, but it's something you value. That means the best that's out there is Chad Light or Ascendant. That's the best case scenario. And so you get a guy who, he's good looking and he's smart and he's successful, but emotionally he's not really there. He's like he describes himself as having, I don't know if he still does, but at least last time I saw him, as having Peter Pan syndrome. That's your best case scenario. More likely you're going to be getting somebody like me, right? And then who's like first of all not available anyway, because I'm just not dating. But let's say I was. Okay, then you have somebody who's not very physically attractive, below average height, not in good shape, and not professionally successful, with no prospects. And that's kind of it, because anybody who's better than that is married. so yeah, it's really tough. That's what so I think when you talk about singles crisis in any community, it's important to remember that in any given community or in any given demographic, most people are finding relationships. They're finding marriage and long-term relationships. How satisfying they are, I don't know. That's going to vary. But they are finding it. But yeah, you're going to it's going to get more difficult to find. And yeah, when you put everything together, you know how they're always saying, oh, there's so many beautiful women, but there's just not enough attractive men for it. There's like, well, that's bullshit. That's not true at all. But in terms of, especially, again, 30s and 40s, are there really enough good guys to go around for the amount of good women that are still out there? I don't think there are. And I don't think it has anything to do with men going MGTOW. It has to do with the fact that the men who aren't married by their 30s or 40s, there's something wrong with them, for lack of a better word. And whereas the women who aren't married by them, they're just weren't enough guys for them. Weren't enough good guys for them, or they did, or didn't work out with the guy they had, or shit like that. And then also men don't have the biological clock. Also, I think that just people in general, maybe the instinct just isn't as strong for men. I think that people just in general, especially as society gets more developed, are less driven to have families and kids. And that women generally still have this drive. And that men are just less interested into it. But I don't think it's an issue of men going their own way. It's more of a men being less driven. Because historically, before internet porn and stuff, and, OnlyFans and sex workers and stuff like that, like a guy, let's say all he cared about was sex. Well, the only way for him to get sex was to get wifed up. And that just isn't the case anymore. So it's not an anti-woman thing. It's a lack of motivation. I think more of it's a crisis of modernity more than anything else. Yeah. So, like I said, I told you this video was going to suck. Okay, so anyway, updates with me. On a fast right now. I've tried several since we last talked. They all failed. I have to go into work early tomorrow. So that's kind of motivating me to fast now, because that way I'll sleep better and it'll be easier for me to wake up. So yeah, when did I start? I guess I'm approaching 24 hours now. By the time I go to bed, it'll have been past 24 hours. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, ever since I got that 3-day thing, I just haven't been able to do it. I'm still really interested. I still really want to do it. But, it gets to, I want like I said, the spiritual benefits, but also the health stuff. I feel like, let's say I could do a 40-day fast. I don't know for sure, but I really think it would make it so I'd be able to at least eat chocolate again, without going into this depressionary death spiral. Because I really miss chocolate. Maybe not the healthiest reason to go on a fast, but maybe it does some other stuff. Maybe it increases my energy, stuff like that. So there could be health stuff. But even if it doesn't do anything, like I said, I'm still interested in to get altered states of consciousness if possible. I really want to do it. But the further you go along in the fast, the less I give a shit about that stuff. It gets to a point where it gets stronger and stronger. This thing is just look, fuck all that. I just want to eat. I just want to eat these. And it's not as bad if it's unappetizing foods. Let's say I could only break the fast with beans and broccoli or something. Then I would be more inclined to be just okay, whatever, I'll keep fasting. But if it's anything that even remotely tastes good, even if it's something I normally don't like rotisserie chicken, it gets to a point at that if I can even make it to the 3-day mark, usually before then, where it's just so overwhelming, the desire, that I can't do it. So I don't know what I'm going to do. How am I ever going to get past this hump? Then, work. Yeah. Like I said, I have to go in early tomorrow because there's a sale that I'm supposed to finalize, but the premium's small. It's only $500. So my commission is going to be $80 or something. Actually, I don't even think it's going to be that. Because, it would mean if it's $500, that would mean the first month is... Yeah, I don't know. The commission is not going to be a lot of money. And, like I said, I have to produce at this job. And I'm not really doing it. I'm moving some stuff. It's not horrible, but I don't know. So like I said, I just want to survive, just make it through the summer. After that, if my boss wants to fire me, okay. That's where I am right now. So I don't know. And then, oh right, and the books. So the book I'm reading now is The Thirst by Joe Nesbo. Yeah, it sucks. I think I'm done with the mysteries. And I was thinking about it. I actually, like, if I think about mysteries that I like, it's, And Then There Were None, Murder on the Orient Express is great. And I think And Then There Were None was also by Agatha Christie, right? So maybe I just only like Agatha Christie. But I think, it's like, I just like the old school mysteries that were just about the mystery, not trying to be a character study, not putting in a whole bunch of sex shit that I don't want to hear. And that's like really graphic. And this isn't as bad as the Japanese one, but same issue. So anyway, this is called it's a new Harry Hole novel. So I guess it's like an anthology and stuff. So this is some like really tall, like even by Scandinavian standards guy in Norway, who's this like, he had been a detective, but now he's off the force. He has to come back because this one that got away is back and killing again. And this guy who's doing it is into like vampirism. Like he'll kill people and then drink their blood. Kills women and then drinks their blood. Yeah, I don't like it at all. But I feel kind of obligated to finish it. And, I just read it. I don't read it at home. But like when I have downtime at work, because there's sometimes at work where there's just nothing happening, and to kill the time, I'll read it. I'd like to finish it. I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm less than halfway done. Now you can, like, sometimes when I read it for a while, I do kind of get into it. It's just not that good. And like, I don't care about any of the characters. I don't really care who this guy is who's doing it or why he's doing it. So yeah, I don't like it. I think that, so this is the second mystery that I read. Well, actually, that's not true because I read one that was a much lighter mystery. That one was actually okay, but the Japanese one I didn't like. This one I don't like. And then the other book that I read recently was that Tommy Orange book. That one I did like. So I guess I just picked mysteries just because it's an easy genre, because I know I'm not going to be interested in romance or anything, and I want it to be fictional, so what else would I pick? So I think next time I'm either going to see if I can find some older mysteries, some Agatha Christie style ones, and then if I can't, then maybe go to just a different genre. And I don't like science fiction either. So no, science fiction is out. Science fiction has always given me the creeps. And now I do like horror, but really I actually only like Stephen King. I've read other horrors and I think they fucking suck. So that's out. And if I'm not going to do mysteries, then what else am I supposed to read? What else is there? I don't know. Okay. So again, I know this was a bad video. Oh, one other thing. 4th of July. Somebody asked me to make a vid about 4th of July. I can't do a whole video because I don't have that much to say about it. My only real 4th of July... First of all, for me, 4th of July is just another holiday. I never really thought of it having anything to do with patriotism or whatnot. You can be super patriotic and not celebrate it or not care about it, and you can think that this country fucking sucks and it's still a holiday. I mean, at least it's a day off work, right? Or school. Well, not school, really, unless you're in summer classes. But to tell you the truth, the only real concrete memory I have of 4th of July is being young, and I don't think I'm the only one with this, having a very distinct memory of the fireworks, like going to the fireworks like that you see in the parking lot when I was young, and having it end, first of all, like them doing shapes and stuff. But what I really remember is not the shapes. It's the last thing, it's spelling out God Bless America. And it's a really clear memory. And obviously it never happened. Because I remember actually, asking my dad once, we were like, why aren't they spelling out like God Bless America like they did before? And my dad was like, oh, no, that never happens. Like, I had memories of that too from when I was a kid. I remember it being like them doing things with like an American flag. That just isn't how fireworks work. But it was such a clear memory. I remember it like it really happened. But obviously it didn't really happen. And again, I know it's not me. I think my brother had the same thing happen. I know my dad did. Now, maybe it's just in our family. You guys can tell me in the comments. I think it's just because the brainwaves, when you're young, you're in those like theta brainwave state. So reality and fantasy get blurred in a way that that they don't when you're a kid, when things become more solid. That's why, like, you see little kids and you wonder, like, why they're so interested and engaged in things all the time. Like, you very rarely see like a little kid be like bored the same way an older kid or an adult is. And it's because their brainwaves are in that mystic state. And that's why I do the shamanic drumming and we're doing the fasting. I'm trying to get myself into that state, get back into that state. We make life a lot more interesting, that's for sure. That's all for now. See you in the next.